The funeral ended just before sunset. A cold October wind swept across the cemetery outside Cedar Falls, Colorado. Friends and relatives slowly returned to their cars. Flowers covered the fresh grave. Standing silently beside it, Sarah Mitchell couldn't bring herself to leave. Only 48 hours earlier, her husband, Daniel Mitchell, had kissed her goodbye before driving to work. 49 years old, healthy, always smiling. Then, a phone call changed everything. Daniel had collapsed during a business meeting. By the time the ambulance reached the hospital, he was gone. A massive heart attack. The doctors said it happened so quickly that he never suffered. Those words were supposed to bring comfort. They didn't. Sarah stared at the polished granite headstone, still unable to believe that the man she'd shared 23 years with was now beneath the earth. Their 17-year-old daughter, Emma, quietly slipped her hand into Sarah's. "Mom, we should go." Sarah nodded without speaking. Together, they walked away. The Mitchell house had never felt so empty. Daniel's reading glasses still rested on the kitchen counter. His favorite coffee mug sat beside the sink. His leather jacket hung near the front door. Every room held a memory. Every memory felt like another goodbye. That night, neither Sarah nor Emma could sleep. Around midnight, Sarah wandered into the master bedroom. Moonlight spilled through the curtains. Everything looked exactly as Daniel had left it. His watch rested on the nightstand. A novel lay open on his side of the bed. She gently picked it up. A folded piece of paper slipped onto the floor. It wasn't a letter. It was a handwritten note, only one sentence. "If anything ever happens to me, trust your heart." There was no explanation, no signature, just those words. Sarah frowned. Daniel wasn't the type to leave mysterious notes. She folded the paper and placed it inside the bedside drawer, trying not to think about it. The following morning, life demanded attention. Insurance companies, bank accounts, bills, paperwork. Daniel had always handled their finances. Now Sarah found herself searching through filing cabinets for passwords and documents she had never needed before. Everything seemed organized until she reached his home office. Most drawers were neatly labeled: tax records, mortgage papers, business contracts, nothing unusual. But one folder caught her attention. It was completely empty. Only a small handwritten message remained inside. Private. That was strange. Daniel had never hidden anything from her. At least, she didn't think he had. Later that afternoon, Emma helped pack away some of Daniel's clothes. As Sarah lifted a framed landscape painting from the bedroom wall to dust behind it, she suddenly stopped. "There wasn't a hole here before," she whispered. Emma looked over. "What?" Behind the painting, hidden inside the wall, was a small steel safe. Both of them stared at it, silent, confused. Emma frowned. "Daniel never told us about this." Sarah slowly reached forward, running her fingers across the cold metal door. There was no keyhole, only a digital keypad. 4 numbers, nothing more. She tried Daniel's birthday. Wrong. Their wedding anniversary. Wrong. Emma's birthday. Wrong. 3 failed attempts. The keypad flashed red. Access locked. Sarah stepped back. Her heart was beating faster. Why would Daniel install a hidden safe and never mention it? Emma looked nervous. Maybe we should leave it alone. Sarah couldn't, not anymore. For 23 years, she believed there were no secrets between them. Now, a hidden safe was sitting inside their bedroom wall, waiting. As night settled over the quiet neighborhood, Sarah stood staring at the locked safe, completely unaware that whatever was hidden inside was about to change everything she believed about her husband.
Sarah barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the hidden safe behind the painting. Why had Daniel never told her it existed? What could possibly be so important that it had to stay hidden inside the walls of their own bedroom? The questions refused to leave her mind. Early the next morning, Emma found Sarah sitting at the kitchen table with a notebook. "What are you doing?" "I'm trying to figure out the code." Pages were filled with numbers. Daniel's birthday, their anniversary, Emma's birthday, their house number, the year they got married. Nothing had worked. Emma thought for a moment. "What about Grandpa's birthday?" Sarah shook her head. "No, your father never remembered birthdays." For the first time since the funeral, they both laughed. The moment lasted only a few seconds. That afternoon, Sarah began sorting through Daniel's desk again. Inside an old notebook, she noticed something unusual. Several pages had tiny circles drawn around one date, April 18. Not once, not twice, nearly every year. Yet April 18 wasn't anyone's birthday. It wasn't their anniversary. It wasn't a holiday. She couldn't remember why Daniel had marked it so many times. Emma looked over her shoulder. Maybe it means something. Sarah slowly nodded. It has to. Back upstairs, they stood in front of the safe once again. Sarah carefully entered the numbers. 0, 4, 1, 8. The keypad stayed silent for one long second. Then, beep. A soft mechanical click echoed through the bedroom. The steel door slowly unlocked. Neither of them moved. Emma whispered, "It worked." Sarah took a deep breath, then gently pulled the door open. There wasn't any cash, no gold, no expensive watches. Instead, everything inside was perfectly organized. A thick stack of documents, several sealed envelopes, a small photo album, a wedding ring, and a single handwritten letter resting neatly on top. Across the front, Daniel had written only one sentence. "Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm gone." Sarah's hands began to shake. Emma looked at her. "Mom, you should read it." Sarah slowly unfolded the letter. The first lines made her heart stop. "There are things I never told you, not because I stopped loving you, but because I promised someone I never would." Sarah couldn't breathe. She turned to the next page. "Before you judge me, please look at the photo album first." With trembling hands, she reached for the album. The first few pictures were ordinary. Daniel as a young man, college friends, old family gatherings. Then, everything changed. One photograph showed Daniel standing beside a woman Sarah had never seen before. They weren't just standing together, they were smiling, comfortably, naturally, as if they had known each other for years. The next picture was even shocking. Daniel was holding a little boy. The child couldn't have been more than 3 years old. The boy was laughing. Daniel looked happier than Sarah had ever seen him. Emma stared at the picture. "Who is that?" Sarah couldn't answer. She turned another page. More photographs, birthdays, Christmas celebrations, school events. In every single picture, Daniel was there, always beside the same woman, always beside the same boy. As the years passed, the child grew older. 10 years old, 12, 15, until the final photograph, a teenage boy standing shoulder to shoulder with Daniel, almost identical smiles, almost identical eyes. Emma's voice became barely audible. "Mom, he looks like Dad." Sarah slowly closed the album. Tears filled her eyes. For 23 years, she believed she knew everything about her husband. Now, a hidden safe had revealed a life she had never imagined. She looked back at Daniel's unfinished letter, certain that the next page would either explain everything or destroy everything she thought she knew. The bedroom remained completely silent. Sarah couldn't stop staring at the photo album. The teenage boy looked almost exactly like Daniel. The same dark hair, the same smile, even the same small scar above the left eyebrow. Emma slowly picked up the last photograph. "Mom, do you think—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Sarah already knew what she was about to ask. Was the boy Daniel's son? The thought alone made her feel sick. After 23 years of marriage, had Daniel secretly raised another child? With trembling hands, Sarah unfolded the next page of Daniel's letter. "I know what you are thinking, and if I had found these photographs without an explanation, I would probably think the same." She took a slow breath and continued reading. "Please don't decide who I was until you finish this letter. The truth is far more complicated than it appears." Sarah looked at Emma. "I don't know if I'm ready." Emma quietly nodded. "Neither am I." Later that afternoon, Sarah searched Daniel's office again. This time, she noticed something hidden beneath the bottom drawer, a small metal key taped underneath. Attached to it was a faded luggage tag. Only one word was written on it: storage. No address, no explanation, just that single word. Emma frowned. Dad rented a storage unit? I've never heard him mention one. Neither had Sarah. Another secret, another question. Using Daniel's keys, they drove across town. After nearly an hour of searching, they finally found a self-storage facility on the edge of Cedar Falls. The manager greeted them politely. "I'm looking for a unit rented by Daniel Mitchell," explained Sarah. The manager checked his computer, then looked surprised. "Unit 214. It's been rented for almost 18 years. Sarah felt her stomach tighten. 18 years? The manager nodded. He paid for it every year, without fail. A few minutes later, they stood in front of the gray metal door, Unit 214. Sarah unlocked the padlock. The heavy door slowly rolled upward. She expected boxes, old furniture, maybe business files. Instead, the unit looked like someone had carefully preserved an entire life. There was a child's bicycle, a baseball glove, school trophies, birthday decorations, shelves filled with photo albums, several large moving boxes, everything neatly organized, as though someone visited often. Emma slowly picked up one of the trophies. It read, "Lucas Carter, Most Valuable Player, Age 12, Baseball Tournament." Emma whispered, "Lucas, so that's his name." Sarah opened one of the larger boxes. Inside were dozens of birthday cards. Every single one was signed by Daniel. The messages were simple. "Proud of you. Keep chasing your dreams. Love you always." Sarah's heart shattered. She sat down on the concrete floor. Tears rolled down her face. It certainly looked as though Daniel had lived another life, another family, another child. Emma quietly wrapped an arm around her mother. Neither of them spoke. Just before leaving, Sarah noticed one final object sitting on a small wooden shelf, a sealed envelope. Across the front, Daniel had written, "Open this only after you visit Unit 214. Sarah slowly broke the seal. Inside was another handwritten letter. The very first sentence made them both freeze. "Lucas Carter is not my son." Sarah looked at Emma, then back at the page. The next line was even more unexpected. "But years ago, I promised his dying father that I would protect him as if he were my own." Sarah's hands trembled. Everything she believed, everything she had assumed, suddenly became uncertain again. Maybe the photographs hadn't told the whole story, and maybe Daniel's biggest secret wasn't an affair at all. Sarah stared at the letter for a long time. Her hands were trembling. She read the first sentence again. "Lucas Carter is not my son." For the first time since opening the safe, she felt a small sense of relief. But relief quickly turned into confusion. If Lucas wasn't Daniel's son, then why had Daniel spent nearly 18 years secretly raising him? She took a deep breath, and continued reading. 20 years ago, I was driving home from a construction project during a snowstorm. A pickup truck lost control on an icy bridge. It crossed into my lane. The driver was my friend, Michael Carter. Sarah frowned. She had never heard Daniel mention anyone named Michael. The letter continued. Michael and I worked together for years. He had recently lost his wife to cancer. His entire world was his 4-year-old son, Lucas. Sarah slowly turned the page. When I reached Michael's truck, he was still alive, barely. He knew he wasn't going to survive. Before the paramedics arrived, he grabbed my hand and made me promise something. Sarah felt tears filling her eyes. He said, "Don't let my son grow up alone. Promise me he'll always have someone. Promise me he'll never feel abandoned." I gave him my word. Emma quietly sat beside her mother. Neither of them spoke. The storage unit suddenly felt different. It no longer looked like evidence of a secret affair. It looked like evidence of a promise, one Daniel had carried for nearly 2 decades. The letter continued. After Michael died, Lucas was placed in foster care. There were no close relatives, no grandparents, no brothers, no sisters, only me. Sarah whispered, "Oh, Daniel." She had no idea. "I wanted to tell you everything, many times, but Lucas's social worker warned me that any publicity could complicate his legal situation. Then, as the years passed, the secret became heavier. Every year I waited, it became harder to explain. I wasn't protecting myself anymore. I was protecting a frightened little boy." Emma wiped away a tear. "So, Dad wasn't living another life?" Sarah slowly shook her head. "No, he was keeping a promise." Inside another box, Sarah found dozens of receipts: school tuition, medical bills, baseball equipment, college savings deposits. Every payment had come from Daniel's personal account, never from the family business, never from any shared account. He had quietly supported Lucas for years without taking anything away from Sarah or Emma. Then, Sarah noticed another photograph. This one was different. Daniel, Lucas, and the woman from the earlier pictures. She turned it over. Written on the back, "Amanda Carter, Lucas's aunt." Sarah closed her eyes. Amanda wasn't Daniel's secret wife. She was Michael Carter's younger sister. After Michael's death, she had become Lucas's legal guardian. Everything suddenly made sense. The birthdays, the holidays, the school events. Daniel hadn't been living another life. He had simply become the father figure Lucas no longer had. Inside another box, Sarah found one final envelope. This one wasn't addressed to Sarah. Across the front it read, "For Lucas." Emma looked at her mother. "Should we open it?" Sarah slowly shook her head. "No, it belongs to him." For the first time, she realized there was someone else grieving Daniel's death, someone who had also lost the man who raised him, someone who probably had no idea that Daniel had left behind one final message. Sarah carefully placed the envelope back inside the box, then quietly whispered, "I think we need to find Lucas." She had no idea that meeting him would reveal one final truth, one that would change both families forever. The drive home was completely silent. Sarah kept thinking about Daniel's letter. For 2 days, she had believed her husband had betrayed her. Now, she realized he had spent nearly 20 years protecting a promise he never found the courage to explain. Emma looked out the passenger window. "I feel terrible." Sarah glanced at her. "Why?" "I was angry at Dad. I thought he had another family." Sarah reached over and squeezed her daughter's hand. So did I. That evening, Sarah opened Daniel's laptop. Most of his files were ordinary: work documents, tax records, family photos. Then she noticed a folder protected by a password. Its name was simple: Lucas. She already knew the password, the same code that had opened the safe. The folder unlocked immediately. Inside were dozens of scanned report cards, medical records, photos, and one document titled Emergency Contact Information, Lucas Carter, age 21, college student, address, Boulder, Colorado. Sarah quietly copied the address onto a piece of paper. Emma looked at her. "Are we really going?" Sarah nodded. "I think your father wanted us to." The next morning, they drove nearly 2 hours to Boulder. Neither of them knew what to expect. Would Lucas hate them? Would he even know who they were? Sarah wasn't sure. They finally stopped outside a small brick apartment building, apartment 3B. Sarah stood at the door for nearly a minute before knocking. Footsteps approached. The door slowly opened. A young man stood there, tall, dark hair, kind eyes. For a moment, Sarah forgot how to breathe. It wasn't because he looked like Daniel. It was because his smile did. The same warm smile Daniel always had. Lucas looked confused. "Can I help you?" Sarah swallowed hard. "My name is Sarah Mitchell." The smile disappeared. His face turned pale. You're Daniel's wife?" Sarah nodded. Lucas looked at Emma. "And you must be Emma." Emma stared at him in surprise. "You know who we are?" Lucas smiled sadly. "Of course. Your dad talked about you every single week." Sarah felt tears forming again. "He did?" Lucas stepped aside. "Please, come in." The apartment was small but neat. Family photographs covered one shelf. Many included Daniel: fishing trips, baseball games, college graduation. One picture showed Daniel proudly standing beside Lucas in a cap and gown. Sarah realized Daniel had never missed the important moments, not because he loved another family more, because he refused to let an orphaned boy face life alone. Lucas quietly brought 3 cups of coffee. For several moments, nobody spoke. Finally, Lucas broke the silence. "I went to the funeral." Sarah looked surprised. "You were there?" He nodded. "I stood in the back. I didn't want to disturb your family. My aunt always said that part of loving someone is respecting the people they loved before you." Emma wiped away a tear. "You should have come to us." Lucas smiled sadly. "I didn't think you even knew I existed." Sarah lowered her eyes. "We didn't." Lucas stood up, walked to a bookshelf, then returned carrying a small wooden box. "Dad," he stopped himself, then quietly smiled. "I still call him Dad sometimes." Sarah smiled through her tears. "I think he'd like that." Lucas opened the box. Inside were dozens of handwritten birthday cards, Christmas letters, graduation notes, every single one signed, "Love, Daniel." Then Lucas reached the bottom of the box. There was one letter he told me never to open. He said, "If anything ever happens to me, give this to Sarah." Sarah's heart stopped. Slowly, Lucas handed her the sealed envelope. Across the front, in Daniel's familiar handwriting, were 6 heartbreaking words. "For Sarah, when you know everything." Sarah stared at the envelope. After everything she had already learned, she couldn't help but wonder what truth was still waiting inside. For several seconds, she couldn't bring herself to open it. Everything she had believed about Daniel had changed in just a few days. First, she thought he had betrayed her. Then she discovered he had spent 20 years honoring a dying friend's final wish. What else could possibly be left to say? Emma gently touched her mother's arm. "Mom, I think Dad wanted you to read it." Sarah slowly nodded. With trembling fingers, she broke the seal. The letter was several pages long. Daniel's familiar handwriting covered every line. The first sentence made Sarah's eyes fill with tears. "My beautiful Sarah, if you've reached this letter, then you've already met Lucas. And that means you finally know the secret I carried for almost half my life." She took a slow breath and continued. "The greatest mistake I ever made wasn't helping Lucas. It was believing I had to do it alone." Sarah lowered the paper. For years, she had wondered why Daniel sometimes seemed distracted, why he occasionally disappeared for an afternoon, why he insisted on handling certain finances himself. Now, every unanswered question finally had an answer. She continued reading. "I wanted to tell you the truth hundreds of times. I even practiced the conversation while driving home from work. But every time I imagined the look on your face, I lost my courage. Not because I thought you would stop loving me, but because I was afraid I had lied about everything." Sarah quietly whispered, "You should have trusted me." A tear rolled onto the page. The next paragraph felt even more personal. "You once asked me why I always worked late every April. I told you it was because of the annual company audit. That wasn't true. Every April 18th, I visited Michael's grave. It was the day I made him a promise." Sarah closed her eyes. April 18th. The mysterious date circled again and again in Daniel's notebook. Now she finally understood. Daniel's letter continued. "I never missed that day. Sometimes Lucas came with me. Sometimes I went alone. Every year I stood beside Michael's grave and told him his son was doing well. It was the only promise I was ever afraid to break." Emma quietly wiped away another tear. "He really kept his word." Sarah nodded. "He never stopped." Lucas remained silent. He had heard parts of the story before, but never the entire letter. Finally, he spoke. "When I was little, I thought Daniel was just my dad's best friend. As I got older, I realized he was choosing to stay. He never had to, but he always did." Sarah smiled sadly. "He never told us because he thought he was protecting everyone." Lucas nodded. That's who he was. Near the end of the letter, Daniel wrote something neither of them expected. "Sarah, if you're reading this, then I have one last favor to ask. Please don't let Lucas leave your life after I'm gone. He lost one family already. I don't want him to lose another." Sarah looked toward Lucas. He quickly looked away, as though he didn't want anyone to see the tears in his eyes. Daniel's final words filled the last page. "I know this request may feel unfair. You didn't choose this responsibility. Neither did Emma. But if your hearts ever have room, please let Lucas know he will always have a place in our family. Because family isn't only the people we're born to. Sometimes it's the people we choose to never abandon. I have loved you every single day of our marriage. Nothing ever changed that. Thank you for giving me the happiest life a man could ever ask for. Until we meet again, forever yours, Daniel."
Sarah couldn't take her eyes off the newspaper clipping. She walked closer. The yellowed article was nearly 20 years old. The headline read, "Construction worker dies after safety equipment failure." A black and white photograph showed a building site, emergency vehicles, police officers, and in the corner, a younger Daniel Mitchell. He looked devastated. Sarah turned toward Lucas. "Why do you have this?" Lucas carefully removed the framed article from the wall. "My aunt gave it to me. She said this was the day everything changed. Sarah studied the article more closely. According to the report, a steel support beam had collapsed during the construction of a downtown office building. One worker died instantly. Several others were injured. Daniel had been the site supervisor that morning. Emma looked confused. "I thought Dad worked in commercial construction." "He did," Sarah replied quietly, "but he never mentioned this accident." Lucas sat down and opened a small drawer beneath the bookshelf. He removed an old leather journal. "The newspaper didn't tell the whole story," he said. "This belonged to my dad." Sarah accepted it carefully. The first pages described ordinary life: work, bills, raising Lucas. Then everything changed. One entry read, "Daniel tried to stop the work. He noticed a crack in one of the support beams. He wanted everyone evacuated. The project manager refused. He said delaying construction would cost too much money." Sarah felt her heart sink. Another page followed. "Daniel argued with him for nearly 20 minutes. Most workers left the area. One man stayed behind to finish welding. Minutes later, the beam collapsed." Sarah slowly looked up. "So Daniel wasn't responsible?" Lucas shook his head. "No, he tried to save everyone." Emma turned another page. The final journal entry was dated only a few days before Michael Carter's accident. "Daniel has blamed himself ever since, even though none of it was his fault. He says if he had shouted louder, maybe one more man would still be alive." Sarah closed the journal. For 23 years, Daniel had quietly carried guilt that never belonged to him. Lucas smiled sadly. "My dad used to tell me something." "What?" Sarah asked. He said, "Some people measure wealth by money. Daniel measures it by the number of people he can help." Emma smiled through her tears. "That sounds exactly like Dad." "It does," Lucas replied. As they prepared to leave, Lucas handed Sarah another small envelope. "This was hidden inside the journal. It has your name on it." Sarah looked surprised. "Another letter?" Lucas nodded. "I've never opened it." She carefully unfolded the paper. Unlike Daniel's previous letters, this one was very short. "Sarah, if you've reached this point, then you know enough to understand one final request. Please come to Aspen Hill on April 18th. Someone will be waiting." There was no explanation, only a location and a date. Emma frowned. "Who's waiting there?" Sarah slowly folded the note. "I don't know, but your father wanted us to find out." 1 week later, April 18th finally arrived. Sarah, Emma, and Lucas drove together to Aspen Hill Cemetery. Morning fog covered the quiet hills. They followed the directions Daniel had written years earlier. At the very top of the cemetery, they found Michael Carter's grave. Fresh flowers had already been placed there. Someone else had arrived before them. Footsteps echoed behind them. The three of them slowly turned around. An elderly man wearing a dark coat stood quietly among the trees. He smiled gently, then spoke the words Daniel had written years ago. "I've been waiting for you." The morning fog drifted slowly across Aspen Hill Cemetery. Sarah, Emma, and Lucas stood silently beside Michael Carter's grave. The elderly man approached at a slow, steady pace. His gray hair moved gently in the wind. He carried a small bouquet of white lilies. When he reached the grave, he carefully placed the flowers beside the headstone. Then he looked at Sarah. "You must be Daniel's wife." Sarah nodded. "Yes. And you are?" The man offered a gentle smile. "My name is Robert Hayes. I worked with Daniel and Michael for nearly 30 years." Robert stood quietly for a moment. His eyes rested on Michael's grave. Then he spoke.
Daniel came here every April 18. Never once did he miss a year. Sarah looked down. He never told us. Robert nodded. I know. He asked me to keep that promise. Emma frowned. You knew about Lucas? Robert smiled. I watched him grow up. Daniel made sure he never felt alone. Lucas lowered his head. He even came to every baseball game. Robert laughed softly. He never stopped talking about you. For several minutes, the four of them walked through the quiet cemetery. Finally, Robert stopped beside an old wooden bench. There was one thing Daniel wanted you to know. Sarah listened carefully. He blamed himself for Michael's death. Sarah sighed. We know. Robert slowly shook his head. No, you only know part of it. He reached into his coat pocket, carefully removing a sealed envelope. The paper had become yellow with age. Across the front, Daniel had written, "Give this to Sarah only after she meets Robert." Sarah's hands trembled. Another letter, another truth. She slowly opened it. Sarah, Robert knows what happened because he was there. For 20 years, I've carried something I never forgave myself for. Michael didn't die in the truck accident alone. Sarah frowned. She continued reading. After the crash, I pulled him from the truck, but another man was trapped inside. I couldn't reach him before the fire spread. Every night, I wondered if I could have saved both. Sarah looked at Robert. Was that true? Robert nodded sadly. It was, but Daniel never blamed anyone except himself. The police ruled there was nothing more he could have done. He ignored them. He believed one life lost was one life too many. The letter continued. That's why I stayed with Lucas, not because of guilt alone, but because every time I looked at him, I saw Michael's final act, a father thinking only about his son. I wanted Michael to know his boy would never face the world alone. Tears rolled down Sarah's face. For years, Daniel had carried pain without asking anyone to carry it with him. Robert smiled gently. You know, Daniel often talked about you. Sarah was surprised. He did? Every visit, he'd tell Michael, Sarah still makes the best coffee. Emma won another school award. I wish I could tell them everything. Robert cluttered quietly. He never spoke as if he had two families. He always said, I have one family and one promise. Lucas wiped away a tear. I spent years wondering why he cared so much. Robert looked at him. Because he loved you, but he never loved Sarah or Emma any less. There was room in his heart for all of you. As they prepared to leave, Robert handed Sarah a small brass key. Daniel's name was engraved on it. He told me, if you ever came here, I should give you this. Sarah turned the key over in her hand. What does it open? Robert smiled. I honestly don't know. He only said, when Sarah is ready, she'll know where it belongs. Sarah slipped the key into her pocket. She thought Daniel had answered every question. Instead, he had left one final mystery. Somewhere, a lock was still waiting, and whatever it protected would become Daniel Mitchell's last gift to the people he loved. Sarah turned the small brass key over in her hand. It was old, worn smooth from years of use. One side was engraved with a tiny number, 317. She looked at Robert. Does this number mean anything? Robert smiled apologetically. I'm afraid I don't know. Daniel never explained it. He only asked me to keep it safe. The drive back to Cedar Falls was quiet. Emma sat in the back seat beside Lucas. Neither of them spoke much. Each of them was thinking about Daniel in a different way. To Emma, he had always been a loving father. To Lucas, he had been the man who stepped in when no one else could. And now, they both realized they had been mourning the same person. Later that evening, Sarah walked into Daniel's home office once more. She slowly looked around the room. The bookshelf, the desk, the filing cabinets, everything had already been searched, or so she thought. Her eyes suddenly stopped on an old wooden globe sitting in the corner. Daniel loved antiques. He often joked that the globe was older than both of them. Sarah picked it up. It felt unusually heavy. As she turned it over, she noticed a tiny brass lock hidden underneath. Her heart skipped a beat. She reached into her pocket, removed the key, and carefully inserted it. Click. A small compartment opened inside the globe. Emma gasped. There was a secret compartment? Sarah nodded slowly. Inside was a velvet pouch, a leather journal, and one final envelope. The envelope read, "My last gift." Sarah opened the journal first. It wasn't filled with secrets, it was filled with memories. The first page contained a photograph of Sarah and Daniel on their wedding day. Underneath, Daniel had written, "The happiest day of my life." The next pages showed Emma's first steps, family vacations, birthday parties, camping trips. Every page included short handwritten notes. Never stop laughing together. Family is life's greatest blessing. Love always deserves more time. Sarah smiled through her tears. This wasn't a journal of regrets, it was a journal of gratitude. Then she opened the velvet pouch. Inside was a small gold pocket watch. On the back, an inscription read, "To Michael, my brother in everything but blood." Lucas looked at it quietly. "My dad carried this every day." Sarah carefully handed it to him. "It belongs to you." Lucas held the watch tightly, as though he were holding a piece of his father and a piece of Daniel. Finally, Sarah unfolded the last envelope. Daniel's final letter was shorter than the others. "If you're reading this, then every secret has finally been uncovered. There was nothing left to hide, only one final request." Sarah continued reading. "Please don't remember me for the things I kept from you. Remember me for the life we built together. Sarah, thank you for 23 beautiful years. Emma, watching you grow into the young woman you are was my greatest privilege. Lucas, you fulfilled the promise your father asked me to protect. You became a good man. I couldn't be more proud." The final paragraph made all three of them cry. "I hope one day the three of you will celebrate birthdays together, share holidays together, laugh together, not because I asked you to, but because love grows when it's shared. Families are not always born. Sometimes they are built through kindness. That has always been my greatest belief. Goodbye, and thank you for giving my life meaning. Daniel." For a long time, no one spoke. The room was filled only with quiet tears. Then, Emma stood up, walked over to Lucas, and smiled. "So, I guess you're my brother now." Lucas laughed through his tears. "If you'll have me." Emma hugged him tightly. Sarah watched them. Daniel's final wish was already beginning to come true. As the evening sunlight poured through the office window, Sarah looked at Daniel's photograph one last time. She smiled softly. For the first time since his death, the pain in her heart had begun to feel like peace. Only one chapter remained, one final goodbye, and one final promise.
Spring arrived in Cedar Falls. The trees outside the Mitchell home were covered with fresh green leaves. For the first time in months, the house no longer felt empty. It felt alive again, not because Daniel had returned, but because the love he left behind had brought people together instead of tearing them apart. Sarah kept her promise. Every Sunday afternoon, there was one extra chair at the dinner table. Lucas never missed a meal if he could help it. At first, the conversations were quiet, a little awkward. No one knew exactly what to say. But week after week, the silence slowly disappeared. Laughter returned.
Stories replaced tears. Emma even started teasing Lucas the way only a real sister could. One evening, she smiled and said, "You know, you still wash dishes too slowly." Lucas laughed. "I learned from Daniel." Sarah smiled. "That's true. He always found a way to make a 15-minute job last an hour." All three of them laughed. For a brief moment, it felt as though Daniel was laughing with them. Several months later, Sarah received an unexpected phone call. It was a lawyer. There was one final instruction in Daniel Mitchell's will. Sarah frowned. "I thought everything had already been settled." "So did we," the lawyer replied, "but this document was sealed. He requested that it be opened exactly 6 months after his passing." The following Friday, Sarah, Emma, and Lucas sat together inside the lawyer's office. The attorney placed a single envelope on the table. "This is Mr. Mitchell's final legal letter." Sarah slowly unfolded it. Daniel's familiar handwriting appeared one last time. "If you're reading this, then enough time has passed for healing to begin. My final wish isn't about money, it's about home." The lawyer handed Sarah another folder. Inside was the deed to a small lakeside cabin in the Colorado mountains. Sarah looked confused. "I've never seen this before." The lawyer smiled. "Mr. Mitchell purchased it 12 years ago. He visited only once every spring." Lucas immediately recognized it. "He took me fishing there." Emma looked surprised. "He took me fishing there too." The room became quiet. Neither of them had known Daniel had shared the same peaceful place with both of them, not to keep them apart, but because it reminded him of the life he wished they could someday share together. Daniel's letter continued. "I always dreamed that one day the people I love most would spend time here together. No secrets, no fear, no guilt. Only family. If you're willing, keep the cabin. Fill it with birthdays, campfires, fishing trips, laughter. That's the inheritance I truly wanted to leave behind." 1 month later, the four of them drove into the mountains. Sarah, Emma, Lucas, and Amanda Carter. For the first time, the two families shared one table. Amanda looked around the cabin and quietly smiled. "He talked about this place all the time." Sarah nodded. "He wanted all of us here." That evening, they built a small campfire beside the lake. The sky slowly filled with stars. Emma found an old guitar inside the cabin. Lucas remembered one of Daniel's favorite songs. Together, they sang softly beneath the night sky. No one cried, not because they had forgotten Daniel, but because they finally understood him. Before leaving, Sarah walked alone to the edge of the lake. She held Daniel's wedding ring in her hand, the same ring she had found inside the safe. She looked toward the mountains, then quietly smiled. "You kept every promise." The gentle breeze moved across the water. Somewhere in the trees, birds began to sing. Sarah slipped the ring back onto her finger, not because she couldn't let go, but because she would always be grateful for the life they had shared. Years later, people in Cedar Falls often saw the Mitchell family together. Sarah, Emma, Lucas, and Amanda Carter. Holiday dinners, birthdays, graduation celebrations. The family had grown exactly as Daniel had hoped. His greatest secret had become his greatest gift. Because in the end, he hadn't left behind two families. He had left behind one. A family built not only by blood, but by love, promises, and kindness.